Welcome to the Hair to Tech podcast. I am Amber.
And I'm Jen.
And we are joined by
Pax, Noyes. Pax,
Yes.
We're so excited to have you here today with us. And would you please just give an introduction of kind of who you are and what you have going on so we can know more about you?
Yeah, I'm Pax. I've been in a QA role of some sort in tech for about five or 6 years now. I have 3 young children, so I have 3 toddlers, and I got into tech actually by working my way up from a billing department at a web hosting company. So I've never been very technical for most of my life. Like when I dated and stuff in college, people had to walk me through installing anything on my computer. That's how non-tech I was.
Oh, wow.
But I just slowly worked my way up from billing to tech support to QA, and then I have been in it ever since.
That's awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about what the QA job is all about? So I'm assuming, is this QA for software development?
So I'm actually technically an SDET right now, which is a software development engineer and test. That means I write automation, so I'm writing code that will test software before devs released, as well as manually testing it as needed. You always generally start out in QA where you're manually testing, and you can work your way up into an SDET role.
So you went from not very technical to something that is actually very technical.
Yeah, I'm still not the most technical of everyone that I work with for sure, but I can learn what I need to get the job done. It just might not come as naturally to me. I'm not as curious about like, why do these applications work that way as I am about these colors don't look right. So
Gotcha.
It's kind of like I was an art major in college. This isn't like my natural way of thinking, but it works really well.
That's so cool to hear. Thank you. That makes me so happy to hear, because obviously that's where I'm coming from too, is like from a creative background. And so shifting my brain over into being a little more, I feel like I'm naturally pretty analytical, but like more like channeling creativity in a different way, not colors, designs, patterns that look good together. Because a lot of the podcasts that I've been listening to lately, the guests are like, oh, I started hacking my Xbox when I was 12 years old. And I'm like, okay, it's way too late for me to have a tech background from that young of an age. Yeah. So what has the process been like to get you from, or like, what was it even like to be an art major to like, whoa, I'm going to go for this tech thing? Like, can you share with us a little bit about mentally what the shift was and how you broke in and even got hired? I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I've always been creative. Like, I like to know the whys behind things, which I'm sure artistically you kind of want to know, like, why does this work? Why doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm also not the type that's going to go study, like, I don't know, ISPs in my free time. It's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. So I was an art major. Then I had children, and I'm like, no offense, but art major is different than hairstylist. Like, I was not going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
It was just not going to happen. So I decided that I needed to figure out what I wanted to do. I had a friend that worked at a web hosting company, and that's how I got in at the billing department. So it's like the most entry level you can get. And from there, I kind of mastered billing after a year, and I got bored. And so I was like, well, what's the next thing? I guess tech support. So I like spent my lunches in a tech support training class just to get technical enough that I could even be eligible to join a tech support training class for real. And then I was in tech for about a year and a half. And from there, again, like studied, learned what I need to. So even if it doesn't come naturally, if you give me like a path of what I need to do, I can follow that. So from there, I was able to learn everything I needed to be promoted and do those things to move internal to go into QA. So it just like a mindset of knowing I want something different. And then I had an old boss in the billing department that got into QA, and he actually talked to me a lot about it. And that's what really started me on the path of being like, that's what I want, but how do I get it?
Gotcha. So kind of working backwards, like that's the end goal. What are the steps to boop, 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 get from B to A, or A to B, but B to A.
But, and also your story about you went and personally figured out. You said, okay, I don't have this, so I'm going to go on my own time and get the knowledge I need so that I can take the next step. So a lot of self-directed learning rather than going like an university or something.
Yeah, no one's going to give you a chance unless you're going to do a lot of it on your own. Like, I was the first person to move from billing to tech support. It had never been done before. They did not want anyone to do it. And then I was also one of the first females in tech support at that company. And it's not an easy path, and people aren't going to make the time for you. You kind of just have to demand it because you're going to do what needs to be done and show them that you're worth it. So if you can do that, that helps a lot. But like, it's all because someone took a chance on me. My old boss was amazing, and I'm still great friends with him, and he took a chance on me. So I think once you get there, you just need to pass that on and take a chance on someone else and help someone else figure out their path.
That's pretty awesome. So you started at something that was very non-technical, the billing side of things.
Yep.
Because somebody knew who you were, and then proved that you could go to the next step and the next step until you got more and more advanced in your career. I think that's I've heard that from a few people where they're like, I didn't know anything, but I got there. And that's a lot of where I was. I went from back in the 90s from an executive assistant to desktop support, just because like you said, I believed I could do it. And we had just enough of an internet to be able to go and find the answers to a lot of things. And so Amber, you're kind of following a similar path right now, like deciding for yourself, this is what I want to do and what are the steps to doing it.
Right.
So do you see a lot of similarities in?
Yeah, I do, especially coming from a creative background. I love that. I think that's awesome. And I'm sure because you do have a creative background, like that has to come as a benefit in situations, because you think differently than other people. You can see things from very different perspectives, or like kind of rearrange things. And I think that's awesome. I mean, I obviously am not in there yet, but I would imagine having a different perspective like that is incredibly helpful to like troubleshoot or problem solve.
No, I think it is. And like, there are so many people that code better than me or are more technical, and I freely admit that, and that's fine. But I mean, I work my ass off to learn what I need, but I naturally am curious. I'll notice things in the UI that other people won't, if colors look wrong or if the text looks weird. And I've had to work a lot harder. Well, everyone works hard, but since it doesn't come as naturally to me, I've kind of had to work harder in a different way that has made it so that I'm used to the long nights. I'm used to not giving up. I'm used to sometimes life just sucking to get what you want. And so since it hasn't come easy, those times when you have a release that's late at night or bugs that are just like piling up and it's not going your way, like I can handle it, and I can handle that stress and that pressure. So I think it can definitely make you stand out. Like anywhere I've worked, again, I'm not the most technical, but I've had the devs that I work with tell me I'm one of the best QA they've ever had the chance to work with.
Oh, that's a super compliment, because devs aren't free with compliments.
No, I mean, like they can be and they can't. It kind of depends on where you're at. But I think a lot of that is just that I'm a little bit different and I bring something to the table that they haven't really gotten to experience before.
Nice.
That is awesome. I love hearing
so
that.
Amber, I think you could kick ass.
I think so too. I think so too.
You heard it here.
Thank you, Pax. I appreciate that. But also, like, I guess kind of in the same way, like I am just naturally curious. And that seems like that is something that will get you far. Like even so far, as small as like yesterday, I told you I was reading about networking. I'm like, wait a second. Why do switches and routers sound like they're the exact same thing? But they're not. So I'm like, hey, tell me about this switch and router difference. I need to know. Like, why does this sound the same? But it's clearly not. They're both essential, but they do different things, but they're kind of the same. Yeah. But yeah, so it's just shifting the curiosity from like, oh, what is this hair color? How does that turn out, to like, why does this do that instead of that? Yeah.
When she texted me yesterday and said, I'm figuring out some basics of networking, and I did a happy dance, because like every time she learns a new technical thing, that's the hard thing about tech, is that you can know one thing and then all of a sudden there is a whole family of other things that are sort of related but not, and then you have to go do research or dig into it or ask questions or figure out until it stops failing on you what it is you're doing. So
But you're already on the right path by asking questions. Most people won't ask. They just will be like, it's fine, I've got it, when they don't have it.
Right. So since you've mentioned a couple times, like, if there's something I don't know, I will figure it out. What is Google like your resource? Is YouTube your thing? Or is it like a combination of talking to this person, watching this video, trying it out? What's your method?
So it depends on what I'm trying to learn. I have different coding books. Like, I'm trying to learn JavaScript, I'll go there. There's different resources online, like Pluralsight or Udemy or other places you can take courses. I'm big on Udemy courses. Google is like my best friend. It's everyone's best friend in tech. So you do that as well. But normally I'll have to look at some of these things, and I learn best, honestly, from examples that are not technical. Like, if someone was explaining Docker to me, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it's this application that'll spin up containers. So you can have, like, say you wanted to have 5 different websites or applications running at a time, you could have one in each container. So if one crashes, all of them don't crash, just the one in that container. The way that I explain it to people, because the way I learn is, I'm like, think about it like Tupperware. You put one left over in this one in this one in that. Like, so that's how I learn. I have to, like, I have to be able to connect it to something. So I'll research it on my own. Then I'll either talk to some close friends that are also in tech or devs that I'm working with and be like, I think this is what this means. Can I run it past you to make sure I've got it? Like, if I'm only like 80% sure I have it. And so if they're willing to work with me in example land, which they usually are, I can learn anything. But if you're going to talk to me about, like, spin up these containers and do this with Docker and run these commands, I'm like, you're not meeting me at my level. Like, I'll get there, but you've got to bring it to me.
That's exactly how Amber explains stuff to me too. So you're like, hey, I know what a node is because you explained to me how I was a node as a hairstylist. And
right, those real life examples. So when you are learning something new or trying to understand a concept, do you feel like, because you have a solid team around you, they are encouraging of you being transparent about that? Or are they like, yeah, Pax will figure it out, it's totally fine? Or is it like, whoa, I need to pretend like I know everything and then stay up until 3 a.m. and like figure out the things so I can come back all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed knowing that I know all the things?
So even though there have been teams where I should have done that, I refuse. So
awesome.
I'm not going to pretend, and I ask why. And some people will get annoyed and be like, I work somewhere where they're like, you're asking too many questions. And I was like, well, maybe if you explained it right, I wouldn't keep asking.
Right. So there's that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I keep asking you because I don't get what you're saying, and you're not. Like, stop talking to me like I'm a developer. Talk to me at my level, and we'll get somewhere.
Yeah.
So I try to be kind, but I also, if you're gonna sass me, I'll sass back. Like,
for sure.
Let's just work together. We both want each other to succeed. But like, the whiteboard is my favorite thing, drawing and having examples. And I've worked both places where sometimes you're shamed for not knowing things, and like, that's super annoying. And then where I'm currently at, like, I work at Uda Health right now. My team's incredible. They're like, Pax, so what if you break shit? Like, if you break it, we fix it. Like, if you're
that's
not trying,
amazing.
You're not failing, so fail. And I'm like, but I don't want to break anything. And they're like, it's fine. Like,
so awesome. That is super cool to know, because it just shows you that if you do get into a situation where you're with a group of people and you're working with them and it sucks, you don't have to stay there.
Right. Right.
I mean, if it's your first year, you've got to stay there for a year.
Okay, but only for the first year.
Just to be, you need like a year under your belt.
Sure. So hopefully just find a good team from
or
the bat.
Suck it up the first year. So I've had jobs that I sucked up for way too long. So maybe I'm like going overboard in the other direction. But yeah, you're right. You got to show a little commitment to the process, a little commitment to fitting in, for sure.
Well, that, and I tend to undersell myself in interviews because I want time to, like, I don't know how you're going to work as a team. Like, you seem great in an interview, but who knows for real? So if I undersell myself a little bit, still get like what I'm worth money-wise and stuff, but don't tell them that I know exactly as much as I know. It gives you some time if you have a moment where you're like, oh shit, I have no idea what you're talking about, and you guys are not super cooperative. You've got some time because you didn't tell them that you're the bomb. You just said like, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Under promise, over deliver, or under promise, make it.
Depends on the environment. Hey, I'm not drowning now, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like to kind of insist that I interview with multiple people and get a good feel for the team. And I ask them how they handle confrontation and what their mentorship is like and how they want to help QA and how they want to integrate you in the team. And so if you ask the right questions, you can see if they hesitate or if they're like, well, I mean, you should just figure it out. And you're like, no.
So you are equally interviewing them too, right?
Oh, of course.
Because it's like, if you're going to spend however much time with this team, it has to be a good fit.
Well, and your team's going to make or break because usually you're one QA to like 7 or 8 devs.
Okay.
So if they don't support you and don't support QA, your life's hell.
Gotcha.
So you need to ask all those questions to make sure that like, this is where I want to be. I'm going to be juggling all these people. Can we work together? Do we like each other?
I see. So what does QA stand for, and what does what are some of the tasks that you do as a QA? Yeah.
So technically it's probably quality analyst, but usually it's quality engineers in tech, or what I am, which is SDET. So when you're manually testing, that means you're actually like using your mouse and clicking on everything yourself to test. So you will write test cases, which is a reproducible step, so that if I quit a job or if you got hired on, you could follow my test cases to know how to test the software.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're also testing in multiple environments. As the devs have their code ready to go out, they have a development environment where you want to check first to see, hey, is it even functioning? Like, are we about to break everything? Then you have something called stage, which is it's like a copy of production. So it's the closest data you have to production data to see like things still work here. We can go to prod and customers are not going to have downtime. Things are going to work correctly. So you're going to test usually in 2 or 3 different environments and do different types of testing depending on the environment. And then when you're an SDET like me, on top of that, you're going to write automation. So if it's something you're going to have to test multiple times, like every release or consistently, there's no reason you should be manually doing that. You want to write code to do that for you.
Okay. Where do you write that code? What program do you write that automation code in?
So do you have like a she was asking about writing the tests, and I'm not a developer and I've never worked as a QA for doing those types of testing. I've only been like, hey, can you test this and see if you can break anything? I'm really good at breaking things. But so I don't know the answer to what she's saying about yours, which is how do you write those tests? What do you write it in? Is there like a framework? Is there a special language? How does that work?
So you want the automated test, not the manual test?
What are you writing that in? What does that look like?
So it depends on where you work. It changes everywhere.
Okay.
So at my current job, I'm using a framework called Cypress, and I'm using JavaScript. That's the language to write that. At my previous job at Divi, I was using Selenium. That's the framework. And we were using Elixir, the coding language, to write that.
Okay.
So it depends on where you go for what software you're going to use or and what language.
Sure.
It can be anything. So I also do a little bit of Python where I'm at, but we also might be switching to Selenium like in the future for things. So you
adapt.
I work in startups mostly. So like it changes. It's ever changing. If you work at a company that's a bit more established, you're going to know exactly what's coming. But with that, you also lose a lot of freedom to make decisions and kind of be very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
So if they say Python, you'll be in Python forever. Whereas here, like at UDA, it's like, well, do you want to do JavaScript or Pax? Do you think there's something better? Like, do you think Selenium would be a better choice? And you actually have a lot of power and be able to make a big difference.
That's awesome.
So startups probably the kind of culture that you would really enjoy with that, the freedom and decision making.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's baptism by fire. You usually don't have all the tools you need. You have to get a little scrappy, which I love. It helps you learn. Like, I get to do things that I'm probably not qualified for because I'm who they have, which is great for me, but also terrifying.
Awesome.
And it can be longer hours and it's a lot of stress, but it's what I love. And I think it's a huge perk, especially when you think of the risk involved. Startups are always risky, but you learn so much that for me, it's always been worth it.
Right. That sounds like, I mean, just like you said, baptism by fire, that's probably like 5 years worth of experience in one because you're like, man, I'm wearing all of the hats here and figuring out all of the things as best I can, as quickly as I can.
Yeah, no, like at my previous job, it was a startup as well. And at one time I was supporting 17 developers by myself, and usually it's 6 or 7. And so it was a mixture of hell and also like, man, I'm great. You know, but you just get to do things and learn things and work in ways you probably normally wouldn't get to.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's man, this is awesome. So, okay, to recap. So you were saying like be somewhere for about a year to like get your bases covered, which is about what I've been anticipating, because I'm trying to be real with myself here. Like, Amber, you're going to have to, your don't tell me what to do attitude is going to have to take a back seat for a minute, because it's like you have to start at the bottom of the totem pole, right? And then work your way back up.
So I don't think at the bottom you necessarily have to do a year, but when you are entry level in the career that you want, you have to stick it out for a year.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like if you say you start in, I don't know, tech support or whatever, and in 6 months you're doing fantastic, why the hell don't you move up?
Okay.
Why stay?
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like for me, my first QA job, I'm grateful for it because I learned a lot, but I would never want to work for that company again. Oh crap, I told you guys my name. Anyway, it's an environment that I prefer not to work in.
Sure.
Like, I like startups and stuff now, but getting that year in made all the difference for me. Like I could make almost twice as much money as soon as I had a year under my belt, and so many more doors were open. So that's what I mean by stick it out for a year once you're at least at the entry level of the job you want.
Right. Which totally makes sense. I mean, like I would imagine you are an investment on their part too. They want to make sure, like, are you going to stick with this? What are you bringing to the table? Which of course, I mean, if I was hiring somebody, like, how into this are you? How committed are you or not? So
right. And so they'll look at your job history and go, okay, you spent 6 months here and 6 months there and 6 months there. You must be really hard to work with.
Gotcha.
Well, that, or they just feel like you're going to jump in 6 months. So like,
right.
Do we need you bad enough to invest in you? Because will you even be trained in 6 months?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What are you trying to get into now, by the way? Like what do you think?
Sure. So I think, I know this is quite a ways down the road, but I think being a pen tester sounds awesome, or doing like in-person pen testing, because I feel like hairstylists are naturally wonderful social engineers, which I did not know how talented we are. We just naturally do that. So doing in-person pen tests, but then also pen test virtually also, I think would be awesome.
So like application layer, network layer, whatever layer pen testing, you're going to go.
Yeah.
So because developers, like having a developer background is really super good. And I think having a QA background would be a good way to help you build kind of that broad area of skills for pen testing. Right. I don't know. Do you know anybody who's gone?
When you say pen testing, do you mean penetration testing?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So security.
But penetration sounds naughty, though, so we just say pen test.
It does. Why is that still the phrase they use?
Because I have a 12-year-old sense of humor.
Who doesn't?
I just wanted to make sure that I knew what you were referring to, and now I can think of
You're using a euphemism.
No, seriously. But yeah, security is the direction that I want to go in, and I know within that there are so many different ways to go. So also trying to be realistic with myself. I'm like, okay, where is like the fastest entry point that will help me start to stack these skills and experiences so I can move up? Because I mean, I think if I was like, I'm not going to take a job until I am qualified to be a pen tester, it's like, cool, you won't be working for 7 years. That's real cute.
Yeah,
real cute. Like that.
I mean, you did pick the kind of testing that is probably the most technical.
Gotcha.
That is for sure. It's definitely difficult, but most of the people that I know that have gone and decided they wanted to do more of a security route have always started just as a regular manual QA and worked their way up.
Okay.
And then at a company, it'll be like, hey, we're testing this product. And they're like, hey, can I do some like load testing and pen testing, and can I go do these things? And then that's how they start to get like to work their way in there.
Okay.
Like I worked at Vivint for a while and they had their own security team, but you could go and talk to them with questions. And so like the security team had the checklist of what they were going to test themselves. But as QA, you could be like, hey, I want to help with that. So what do you need for this? And it was a great way to get you some experience.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah. That might be a really valid career path.
Because I was even thinking too, like, is it just best to start with like a help desk job just to get?
No, don't do help desk.
Don't do help desk.
I don't think that's the best. No, because for one thing, so I started on the help desk, and it's like all encompassing of all of the problems all the time, and so you have a shallow layer of broad things that you can fix, but diving deeper into what's going on with the code, how can we break it? That really is more of a QA direction. It's a different, like, focused technical thing, I think.
I mean, that's true, but also if you get a company that's willing to open the door to you as a help desk and you tell them your eventual goal is QA and they're down with that, I wouldn't necessarily turn your nose up at that, because doing help desk, you're also doing QA. You're testing things. You're figuring out how they work. So you'll have more experience than no experience when you finally get into a QA job.
Gotcha.
But you have to remember that when you do get hired internally and then you decide to like transfer to another department in that same company, you're usually paid significantly less than if you were an external hire.
So potentially all roads lead to pen testing.
Gotcha. Just gathering all of the experience.
Yeah.
I see.
But I mean, it's not going to hurt you. I've seen people go from help desk that are fantastic, but I've also seen ones that aren't great. It just depends on if that's what you want and if you have the passion to really dig in and just make it work.
Right.
Sure.
There's so many options. I think it's...
Every time we talk... Oh, go ahead.
I think the hardest part for you is going to be just getting your foot in the door, because especially right now in this economy, it's really hard to find any entry-level QA jobs.
Right, for sure. And like, just even, I mean, I still have so much to learn before I can even, I think, apply for an entry level.
Like you're wrong.
No?
You're
okay.
wrong.
Tell me. Thank you, Max.
So you think she could go for an entry level QA job now?
I think that it just takes reading some blogs, studying a bit, knowing the right terminology, and selling yourself. Yeah.
Well.
All right. Well, I know how to do two of those things pretty okay.
You can read a blog with the best of them. I've seen you.
Yeah. I think that's all my questions. We covered so much without even having to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think this one surprised both of us with all of how applicable it is to Amber's path. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Yeah.
No problem, Amber. If you want help after this, reach out.
I so will. Seriously, it's so it's just so cool to see how many people want to see you succeed. Have you noticed that also, for the most part, that like you show an interest and people are like, hell yeah, we are going to put you on our shoulders and just lift you up.
Yeah, I'm on like the board of some meetups and stuff. So like we're big on mentorship. So it's kind of my jam.
Right on.
Wow. Sounds like what you need to go do.
No, seriously. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I've cleared out my salon schedule for whenever things do start to go back to a little more normal, whenever that is, so I can do things like that, because networking is huge. I want to talk to people in the things and all of that. So we will.
Well, and letting go of the salon might be sooner than you thought.
Whoa!
Blew her mind.
Yes. Pew.
Pax, you have been amazing. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Yeah, thank you so
Thanks
much
for having me.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
See ya.
Okay.
So what did you think?
That was awesome.
I honestly...
I say that about everyone.
I know.
But like hers, because they are all awesome.
Well, here's the thing is that our very first guest, Holly Grace.
Holly Grace.
Oh my gosh.
She was so good.
She blew our minds. And then I could see you were like, I want to be that. I want to do pen testing or penetration testing.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
I know. I'm really sorry.
I mean, mine is there too. It's okay.
But so after that, every person that we had on that wasn't really in security, that wasn't penetration testing, I thought, I don't know how beneficial this is going to be for you. But every single one of them has had something valuable to say, and this one for sure about QA being a potential path towards being a pen tester.
Totally.
I'm excited for that option.
It's so funny because this morning at the salon, my client was like, "Oh, I know someone that told me that she like gets paid to break things." I'm like, "I wonder if she's a QA." And so I asked her, "Is she a QA?" And she's like, "Yeah, she's a QA." Yeah. So she sent me. So there might be another QA on here relatively soon.
Great.
But it seems like, I mean, it's so helpful to have, just like what Pax was saying, like, this is what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
So I know more concrete steps to get there.
Yes.
Instead of just like, I don't know what I'm working
towards. How do I, and then her firm belief that you could be an entry-level QA right now and then start following that path, because every time I talk to you, you're like, oh, the salon is making me, you just feel heavy when you talk about it.
I know. And I know. I try not to be such a Debbie Downer.
No, it's okay. It's okay to feel things.
Yeah, I don't know. But it is exciting and also like, whoa, could that happen sooner than I realize?
Could.
Whoa, that's a trip. Because I have found as I am learning other things, or like this is not my first attempt at getting out of hair. It's probably like my third or fourth, because my cycle is like, okay, I'm going to go for it,
do something,
and go all the way. And then I get so burned out because, I might seem super social. Well, I might seem super social because I'm a stylist, but it's like, no, silence is my favorite sound. Like,
so dealing with the people element is a struggle.
It is.
So getting there and past, because anything new, you're going to have to interface with a lot of people because they're going to help you get there.
Right.
But at the same time,
that part is fine because I'm curious about it. But when I think when I like being a sounding board for people, but when it is that day in and day out and like having such in-depth conversations every single day that are like, people are like bearing their soul to you, it is exhausting. It's so exhausting. And then what I found is like, hey, I am losing myself in my clients because I'm here, like, cool, go to sleep, come back tomorrow, and then have another really long, like 3 or 4 hour conversation. Anyway, I digress.
You're so empathetic. I'd be like, oh, well, that sucks.
I'm kind of getting to that point, which I don't like, because that's not who I am.
That's not it. That's not good. That's not who you are. So it's time to maybe grab one of these new opportunities.
Right.
PAX is like showing you a light that maybe you should find that end of that tunnel.
Right. For sure. So I'm excited to explore that more and see what's available. I do have another friend that's a QA tester also, and she loves it, and she works remotely, and she's awesome. So it might be time to cycle back to thinking about that again.
For sure.
Or just keeping more options
open.
And
then I have a guy that I talked to the other day who used to be a teacher at a university, and he's mentored a lot of people into the security field. And I told him about this podcast, and he was like, please, can I come on?
Yes.
Like, yes, of course. So we'll get him on too. So we have a few really good people that hopefully the people who listen to this podcast are also like trying to shift their career, trying to go down this path as well.
Right.
And hopefully they'll find these conversations helpful too.
Yeah. I have another guest who is a co-stylist at my salon who went to coding boot camp last year because she was in the exact same spot where I am at right now. And I cannot wait to talk to her more about this, because what she has gone through is last year's where I'm at right now. And so she's gone through like, I'm a hairstylist. What else am I good at? Like, I don't know what I bring to the table. And now that she has a job, in tech, she's like, oh my gosh, we're so capable. Like, why do we sell ourselves so short? Because I think there's such a stigma about, oh, you're just a dumb hairstylist, whatever.
That's not true, whatever.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool to get her on. So we have some really great people lined up to come and talk, and we'll do that. We'll do that soon.
Yes.
So in the meantime,
this is thank you for tuning in to the Hair to Tech podcast. I'm Amber.
And I'm Jen.
Have a good whatever it is.
Bye.